This is a video about preparing your first project for export. I've just knocked up a quick video here with various tracks. One thing I'm going to point out, you may find this useful, is that you can actually name the individual tracks. Now, I've only got 3 audio and 2 video tracks going on here, but when you've got lots of them stacked up, just calling them V1 and V2 probably isn't as helpful as knowing what's on them. So if you dedicate a particular track to maybe one for titles, another one for adjustment layers, and so on and so forth, and with the audio, give a separate track for each of the elements, ambient sounds, dialogue, music, and so on and so forth. So the way you do that, if it's not visible at the moment, is if you right click here in this particular area, you can go down to the bottom here to customize, and then if you click and drag this track name into this area and click OK, then you'll have a track name, and what you can do is right click on that and choose rename. So I've called this Footsteps. That works for me. I'm going to leave it as is, and then just expand the display so you can see what's going on there like that. Now, another way that that's really useful is if up here, one of the options you've got, if you can't see it, you can go up to Window Audio, click Mixer to turn it on. Is I can call this up, and then I can watch the individual VU meters for each of the tracks to see the balance between them. My particular concern here is to give priority to the music. I'm going to have a kind of background wash of ambient city sounds, and then I've got a kind of spot effect of footsteps for a particular moment that I panned, so I can see the panning effect going on there when I look at that. So if I go back here and just start playing through this, we should be able to get a sense of the various levels. Okay, so you can see at the moment the music's probably a bit too loud. It was cresting on the 0. So what I can do to just bring down the level slightly, I can grab this bar, but I choose not to do that. So if you recall, I can just grab that and pull that whole thing down. The other way I can do that is change the gain. If I go right click on the channel, choose audio gain. Now at the moment the peak amplitude is 1.9, normalized maximum peak is at 0, so not much headroom. So I'm going to make that -3, so the loudest point is going to be -3 dB rather than 0, and what you should notice is the whole of that should slightly drop down, and just check that. So -3 or sometimes even -6, it gives you sufficient room in case there's a sudden sort of spike, and it means that the audio is not going to distort. Okay, so I've labelled things here. I've put black at the beginning. If we look, I think I had at least a second of black. Actually, I've got 2 seconds of black, because what I want to do here is most normally what you do is you'd have the sound cheating in before the picture, because that's a kind of cultural norm that we're used to. If the picture came in first and then the sound, we think either that was wrong or you were being experimental or whatever else. But I'm being very conventional here, so I'm cheating up the sound and use a very long fade there. Then I'm kind of fading up the picture here like this. I'm not using a fade up on the music because it's a self-contained music track, and I'm quite happy to use the way it starts there like that, so it comes in. But I've already keyed up the listener to expect sound because I've been building this, so this almost reaches its peak, so the constant power fade up ends at that point, by which time the music's kind of taken over there like that. Okay, I've added adjustment layer. I need to make sure before I export that none of my tracks are muted and none of the videos turned off. So you can see I've just put a general adjustment layer over there to do some color correction. It was just a bit too orange across the piece. This is one little bit here, it's quite irritating, it's a bit too orange still. here, but I can live with that because it's kind of, I've put an individual color effect on this as well as the global one to take some of the heat off of that particular shot. And then just towards the end, I've done a similar kind of thing here with a long fade out of the ambient track after the picture has gone. Just check that's the case. Yeah, picture goes, and we're still fading out the audio there. And then I've left a little bit of black at the end. If you recall, you can go here and choose new item black video. By default, it creates a 5-second clip of black. You can then use the click and drag this to reduce it in size, and I'm well within my 2-minute length here. It just means that the video doesn't suddenly stop and there's a kind of contemplated moment at the end. Alright, so what I want to do is I'm going to go to there. That's my out point. So I've made sure none of the tracks are muted or not turned on. I've got an in point right at the beginning. I've got black at the beginning. Check my audio levels. I've just scrubbed through. I'm quite happy with the picture. Another thing you sometimes need to look out for, I'm not going to make you sit through this, is sometimes there are little gaps here where you haven't butted up the clip one to the other, so make sure that that's the case. But once you're happy with that, it helps if you give your sequence a useful name, because you can either rename it in the export thing, but by default it's probably called sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it's just good discipline to kind of give it a meaningful name. So what's meaningful in this context is just to call it test output. So I'm going to go up here, file, export, media. Okay, right, so sequence in to out I've selected there, so that's going to do all of it. I can scrub through just to check it's all there. Yeah, all good. Yeah, alright. Now this was actually exported from Unreal at 4K resolution, and you may well want to do this as well. For the screening, what we're going to be doing is, just in order to move the files around, we're going to be screening at 1080p, but if you've been working in 4K and you kept it at 4K, then it kind of makes sense to do a 4K output, so you've got a really high quality version of that. And to that end, if you want to create for yourself a high quality version, there's a link below this video that shows you the different codecs. So you'll see here all manner of kind of codecs, such as kind of QuickTime, MPEG, so on and so forth, and presets that are available here. What I'm going to do in this instance is export two versions. I'm going to use the media encoder so I can queue them up and then just let it rip in the background. So I'm going to do one version which is going to be at 4K. I'm going to do both of these for YouTube, for argument's sake. So if I can find, I probably need to pull this up so I can see it. YouTube, there we go. Going to export this at the actual resolution. So it was 3, and if I choose use previews, then anything that is rendered already on the timeline, it will just use those rather than having to render it all again. It gives me an estimated file size there. What we're going to do is use weed transfer to get the file to me. So anything under 2 gigs is fine. And bear in mind this is about 1:41 and it's at 4K, so unless you're using a different preset, you should actually be fine there. So I'll go Q, and what happens now is it launches Media Encoder. I don't know how much else I've got running on this machine as to how quickly it will do that. So it'll launch Media Encoder, and then it will ooh, look, there you go. I tried to do something before and it didn't work. So it's launched that there like that. That's all good. What I want to do now is, because I've got other ones to do, go back here, go File, Export, Media. And this time I want to make a YouTube, but I want to make it 1080p. Obviously I could do these once you look through the codecs, you may think, yeah, that codec is the one that suits my needs. I either want a really high quality one that I'm going to save on my desktop, or I want to post it on Facebook or wherever else, and you choose the appropriate preset here. So YouTube 1080p. Yeah, actually what I should have done, it actually helps if you put some kind of reference so you can distinguish these particular things here. This I called this one 1080p, and that obviously is a lot smaller. I'll use the previews if you can, and Q. It should then jump back to here like this. I'm not sure if at this point I can change the name. Yes, I can. So this was the first one. If I click this, test output, let's call this 4K YT, and it's going in the documents folder. I could change that if I wanted to renegotiate it. Right, so I've got two of them stacked up there. I could, like, go on endlessly and stack these things up. If I just click this, then it's going to work through the first one, then through the second one, and that's going on in the background. So if I wanted to, I could go back and then do another scene or another kind of video on top of this. But that covers that aspect of the process. So you can see it's now chundering away doing that in the background. So WeTransfer, okay, just been using it. So download, I've just been downloading something, right? So if you go to WeTransfer, here, right, just click no thanks, unless of course you want an account. Go here to add your files. So I've got something edited earlier, desktop, date modified. Oh, there's a Moodle movie. And then your email address is there, and you put who you can send it to. You're going to send this to me. And it's really helpful in terms of the file name if you call it Group A Video 1, Group A Video 2, and you might also want to clarify that in the message. Here is the Group 1 Video 1, given the, yes, you could even spell it properly, given the relative size of this, you've got 2 gigs to play with, you could probably put both of them in the same file. Okay, now if you're not a registered member, what will happen is it'll ask you for a verification code. That's just popped through now. I just drop it in there, and then it starts chundering away, sending that to me. I get an email link, and that's that done. So this is still chopping away. As you can see, it gives you output there. But that is the essence of exporting your video. So export it, then send the videos to me before the deadline. If you can get it sometime before the deadline, bear in mind the way I'm envisaging doing this when we have the screening is that I'm going to upload all of them to a YouTube channel as a playlist, and then play through that playlist. So I will need a bit of time, so any kind of headway you can give me, I'll try to give you as much time as possible, so you can work on these right up to the last minute. But if they come in early, all to the good. Right, okay, that's it.